We begin today's episode with a mystery, a medical mystery in the Texas lab of Dr. Chelia Marginian.
I'm a pathologist and I practice gastrointestinal and liver pathology at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas.
Marginian gets dozens of biopsy samples each week for urgent assessment.
I actually love it. I'm a very visual person. I like to draw and paint. I like colors. You know, looking at tissue, it's actually very colorful. It's not just, pink and purple and blue. And I see every case as a puzzle.
Solving that puzzle can be a matter of life or death for a patient, like this one case that arrived in her lab back in September 2022.
It was a very, very striking case.
Marginian put the tissue sample she'd received under her microscope, and what she saw alarmed her.
It was predominantly pink because dead tissue is pink. So, I kind of panicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is either two things. Like, it's either viral hepatitis or it's a drug-induced injury. I was very concerned.
What Marginian saw was serious, so she got to work.
So then first thing you do, you check in the clinical notes and see what are the labs, how high they are, what is the patient taking. So this particular case, the patient had very, very high, very abnormal liver function tests, like 7 times normal. She was jaundiced, she had nausea and vomiting and abdominal pain.
Marginian went through a process of elimination. She ruled out the likely culprits that was making this patient sick. The patient wasn't taking prescriptions. She ruled out some kind of serious liver disease. And it wasn't a virus.
Then I saw in the notes that she had been taking this supplement for menopausal symptoms.
A menopause supplement. The kind of thing anyone can get at the store to help them feel healthier. Not the kind of thing you expect to get you sick. Immediately, Marginian ordered the patient to stop taking the supplement.
And boom, the liver function test went back to normal in 5 days.
It appeared Marginian had cracked the case. Based on the evidence, the likely culprit was a supplement. Marginian wanted to alert other people about this incident. She wrote about the case in a medical journal, and that was spotted by my colleague, Anahad O'Connor.
Cases like this really speak to me, and I think that they highlight the fact that there's an issue of buyer beware when it comes to these dietary supplements.
Anahad is a health columnist with the Post's Well+Being desk. He's been going through lots of case reports like this one. He wanted to know more about these commonly taken supplements, both their risks and benefits, and do they live up to the hype? What is even in these supplements?
So dietary supplements are wildly popular. In fact, they're used by a majority of Americans. And it seems like the use of these products is actually on the rise.
From the newsroom of The Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Elahe Izadi. It's Thursday, June 13th. Today, we go deep on supplements and how to be smart about taking them. Anahad shares what he's learned about benefits, the misperceptions, and the reality. He spoke with my co-host Martine Powers, and I'll let Martine take it from here.
So Anahad, I know that you've been on our show before to talk about stuff like the food that we eat, what exactly is in ultra-processed food. But today, you are here to talk about supplements, which is this thing that a lot of us take because we want to be healthy, or the doctor told us to take them, or somebody told us to take them. Tell me your thinking about why this is a thing that is worth looking at.
Well, dietary supplements are enormously popular. In fact, the federal government published a study recently where they surveyed Americans and found that roughly 60% of Americans take dietary supplements, and a significant percentage of Americans take more than one supplement. So 2, 3, 4 or more dietary supplements on a regular basis. And the survey also found that a lot of children take supplements, or I should say are given supplements. Children as young as 2 to 5, in some cases you have teenagers taking multiple dietary supplements. So you have just pretty much the entire swath of the United States taking dietary supplements on a regular basis. And there's all sorts of issues that go along with that.
I came prepared for this conversation, and I have my one supplements, my other supplements, my other supplements. So these are my multivitamins, which I just feel like, the doctor tells you generally you should take a multivitamin. This is Daily Cleanse. The pill is green, so I think that does something good for your body. It's unclear to me what, but I was like, yeah, I want to feel cleansed.
Oof.
And then this is vitamin D3 that my doctor actually told me to take. But specifically, I got these because they're gummies and they taste good. And sometimes I have more than the 2 that I'm supposed to have per day because they're basically like candy. So that gives you a picture of the amount of scientific thought and expertise that is going into my supplement regimen.
Yeah, I find it fascinating, but also not surprising. So there are currently about 90,000 dietary supplements on the market right now. And part of the reason is, there are thousands of companies selling dietary supplements to a population of people that want to be healthier. I mean, who does not want to be healthier, right? And so when we take supplements, we're expecting that they're going to make us healthier. And, oh, it's green. Oh, one of the words you hear a lot from people is, oh, it's natural. Right? These are products that are coming from the earth. They're coming from plants. But the issue is that, number one, there's not a lot of regulatory control over these products. And number two is that they're not really widely tested, and they do have side effects, which oftentimes we don't learn about until people go to the emergency room. And so people think, oh, I'm taking, this product, like you mentioned, a cleanser. There are really popular products that are supposed to, detoxify you and that are good for your liver. But in fact, a lot of studies show the opposite. People are taking herbal supplements and they're causing a lot of liver injuries and other problems. And with these products, they may come from plants and may come from food, but we're taking them in supraphysiological doses. So when we eat, a fruit or a vegetable or some other plant or food, we're getting the amounts of vitamins and fiber and minerals and other compounds in these products that we evolved to consume. But some of these supplements are so concentrated that you're getting just these enormous doses of these things that are hitting your liver and hitting your body in just amounts that we didn't actually evolve to encounter on a daily basis.
This is my feel-good start of the day.
This is the perfect solution.
All-in-one, all-natural nutritional supplement.
Science-backed, plant-based ingredients.
It's non-GMO and it's gluten-free.
Stay asleep longer and wake up refreshed and energized.
What they find oftentimes is that the biggest issues is that they may not have the dosages that are listed on the labels. So there have been studies of probiotics. There was one study of 16 different probiotic supplements where they found that only one of the probiotics actually had the strain included in it that was listed on the label. There have been studies of melatonin supplements, which is pretty commonly used to treat sleep issues. And they have found in these studies of melatonin supplements that the dosages just vary wildly from significantly less than the dosage listed on the label to 400 or 500% more of the dosage listed on the label included in the actual supplement. So you're just getting a wide dosage in these products. And it's similar with other, vitamins and minerals.
So before we go any further, I do feel like it's important to have a disclaimer here because a lot of people are told by their doctors to take supplements. We know that multivitamins are generally good for kids. If you're pregnant, that's a big thing that you're supposed to take certain vitamins to prevent birth defects. And so I just want to lay the groundwork here that you're not saying that every supplement known to mankind is either bad for you or pointless.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very important caveat. So the thing is, a lot of supplements are perfectly safe. When it comes to things like multivitamins, they typically contain amounts of vitamins in relatively small doses, and they've not been shown to cause a lot of harm. And we know that there are supplements based on studies that are really good for us. So for pregnant women, for example, a lot of them are encouraged to take prenatal vitamins, and we know that there's benefits to that. With probiotics, for example, they can be very beneficial. They've been shown in studies to help people who have digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease and traveler's diarrhea. There was a recent clinical trial that found that seniors who took a daily multivitamin actually were less prone to memory loss. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to taking supplements. So I'm not someone out here who's saying, people should not take supplements. And most doctors wouldn't tell you that either. The issue is just that, if you talk to most experts, they will tell you that there's not a lot of regulation. And there have been studies that have raised some cause for concern. If you look at surveys, most Americans assume that dietary supplements are tested before they reach the market, that the FDA approves them for safety. And that's actually not the case. When it comes to prescription drugs, one reason we know that prescription drugs have side effects is because by law, they're required to undergo rigorous clinical studies before they reach the market. So most drugs that actually go into clinical trials don't even make it to market because these issues come up. But the drugs that do come to market, we know a lot of the side effects because they've been through studies. But if you go to the FDA's website, the FDA will tell you that with dietary supplements, there's no testing generally that takes place beforehand.
But I think this is really interesting, right? That you might think that a supplement isn't something that would have a side effect the way that real drugs do, but that the reason you know about the side effects are because this prescribed drug, went through a process in which they sussed out all the potential effects. And maybe you don't know about the side effects of this supplement because it didn't actually go through a testing process to see what the side effects were. But I would love to hear more about some of the cases in which this has become a problem. What are the examples of supplements that people thought were healthful, all natural, that ended up having a negative effect?
So there is the Drug-Induced Liver Injury Network, which is a network of doctors that monitors liver injuries caused by drugs and supplements around the country. And they find that a lot of the liver injuries they see with supplement users come from people taking herbal supplements. Things like echinacea. One really popular herbal supplement is called black cohosh. Another popular herbal supplement are fat burners. Obviously, it's not everyone who's taking this. It's a relatively small group of people, but it's striking when it happens. And we don't really know how often it happens or who is most susceptible because we haven't done the studies on them.
After the break, Anahad and Martine talk about how we can all be smarter about the supplements we take. We'll be right back.
So at the beginning, we heard from Dr. Celia Marginian, and she described this process of discovering that the supplement had a negative effect on livers. Can you talk about her and about kind of similar doctors and physicians and pharmacists who have encountered this stuff and have been raising concerns and awareness about the risks of some of these supplements?
So to me, it's really striking because, Dr. Marginian is one of the small number of doctors who actually published a case report about the supplement side effects that she saw.
So it's seriously underreported, and we simply don't have time. You have, as clinicians, 15 minutes per patient, and you have to see the patient, write your notes.
And it's really hard for doctors to track this because, number one, when someone comes in with an injury, doctors will look and see, okay, what medications are they taking? Or, doctors will ask people, what drugs have you taken? What medications have you taken?
And just to be clear, whenever I get asked that question when I go to the doctor, I do not include supplements on the list because I'm like, those aren't drugs. It's just like those other stuff that I order off the internet. They're basically food. They're not... Yeah, they're not like a real drug.
Yeah, people think of these things almost as food. And the really striking thing is that people take supplements, we talked about some of these herbals, expecting medicinal effects.
The vast majority of patients in my office seem to prefer taking supplements to FDA-approved medications.
So I talked to Dr. Howard Lux. He's a orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist in New York who told me about a lot of patients of his who are taking supplements.
To the point that some may still take the medications, but they're going to take more supplements, yet others are going to forego the medications in deference to taking the supplements alone. I have plenty of patients who have arthritis who are taking turmeric or chondroitin sulfate, and they don't want to take Advil or Aleve or Tylenol. I understand it. And if I could trust the potency, the purity, and the fact that there are no poisons within these bottles, then perhaps I could sit back and say, okay, do it. But I don't know how these things will process.
He thinks that part of the reason for the growing use of supplements that he's seeing and other doctors are seeing is sort of a distrust in the medical establishment.
Sadly, since the pandemic, there's been a rise in distrust in physicians as well. So there's just a lot of overall health skepticism. And then you have these loud voices out there on various social circles that are screaming about the benefits of peptides and certain supplements. And their messages scale very easily and very well. So their reach is quite extraordinary.
Well, let me ask this. What does the supplement industry say about these problems and about this growing sense that, like, some of these supplements aren't necessarily safe? Maybe they should be tested, or maybe people should be more worried about them, and that in certain cases they are causing side effects and harmful interactions in people's bodies.
So we reached out to the Natural Products Association, which is the largest and oldest supplement industry trade group, to get comment for this story. And here's what Daniel Fabricant, the CEO of the Natural Products Association, told us.
I think really it's an important discussion to have, but it's also important to put it in context. Supplements are there to supplement, not replace a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle. I mean, I think that's the important thing. And that FDA does have more than ample regulatory authority to take products off the shelf, and especially as it pertains to post-market surveillance. FDA frequently tells doctors to send those post-market surveillance if they have seen an adverse event to FDA so they can weigh in. That's critical.
And the supplement industry will tell you that supplements are regulated, and that is technically correct. But the FDA will tell you that much of their role begins after these products enter the marketplace. So there are over 90,000 of these products on the marketplace, and it's a really difficult job for the FDA to try to find among the 90,000 which are the ones that are tainted or problematic.
So when you say that these supplement companies are arguing that they are regulated by the FDA, it's really only that, like, the FDA is coming in after the fact to look at them if someone has reported problems. But again, to be clear, they're not going through the same rigorous process of testing beforehand.
Right. When we talk about regulation, what most experts will tell you is that these products are not strictly regulated. And that includes the FDA, which says, quote, "Before you decide to take a supplement, you should know that the FDA does not approve dietary supplements for safety and effectiveness or their labeling before they're sold to the public. Dietary supplement companies are responsible for ensuring that their products are safe and accurately labeled. In many cases, companies can produce and sell dietary supplements without even notifying the FDA," unquote.
Well, so then what is your advice here for people like me with my many bottles of my supplements that I was so proud of taking religiously every day? Like, what are you supposed to be looking for to know whether what you're taking is good for you or could be a problem? Or, like, how do you navigate what seems like this wild west of non-FDA approved pills that we're all just sort of expected to have as part of our daily routine?
Yeah. So number one, I'd say, think about why you're taking this product. Why are you taking a multivitamin? I think it's interesting how many people take multivitamins who probably don't actually need them, because most of the people I know who take multivitamins are people who eat a pretty healthy diet already.
I will say, I don't know if this completely applies to me. My envisioning is that, like, the cleanse multivitamin is making up for the pizza and French fries. That they sort of balance each other out, but maybe not.
So what is Daily Cleanse, though? I'm curious.
It doesn't say weight loss on it, but I feel like it's giving a vibe of like, yeah, and then your bowels will just be so like squeaky clean and everything's going to flow through you.
What is it having it?
But it's vitamin C, proprietary blend of psyllium husk powder, spirulina, whole algae powder, chlorella, another whole algae powder, alpha lipoic acid, turmeric, which I know what that is.
Yeah.
Aloe ferox leaves extract. Other ingredients include rice grain powder and some other stuff.
Yeah. And to me, that's fascinating. So, I mean, you're taking this cleanse that no one told you to take, but you're not even sure what's actually in it or exactly what it's doing for you, but you're spending your hard-earned money on it. Would you go to a restaurant and, you know, if they just gave you a bowl and said, here, eat this food, would you just take it and eat it if you didn't know what it was? And yet we do this with supplements, you know, that says, oh, good for you. This is, you know, a cleanse. And we're not even sure what exactly it's cleansing or what it's doing or what it contains. And it's got this potion of quote unquote natural things that can actually have side effects. And then it's being combined with a multivitamin, which presumably has lots of vitamins, including vitamin D. And then you're taking a vitamin D on top of that. To me, I think there's a concept of too much of a good thing. And that can happen. So there've been studies, clinical trials where scientists assume that, okay, we see that people who have, you know, high levels of vitamin E or high levels of selenium, you know, we see health benefits of having these vitamins in their diets. And so they do randomized control trials where they found in some cases that when people get these high doses of these individual vitamins, that it actually increases their risk of certain chronic diseases because, you know, our bodies don't need all that. You could be overwhelming your liver, not actually helping it.
So you had one very good piece of advice, which is the one of asking yourself, like, why exactly are you taking this vitamin or supplement, and do you need to? What are your other pieces of advice?
So number one is talk to your doctor, because doctors can help you sort out, okay, why you're taking this. Are you taking other, you know, prescription drugs where there could be an interaction? You know, are there potential side effects of this supplement? You know, just if you have a doctor, let them know what you're taking, and they may tell you that you don't need it or may warn you about certain side effects. Number two is, you know, if you are taking a multivitamin and you think it's good for you or your doctor recommended it or some other vitamin that you're taking, try to look for products that have been actually tested and verified. So there's a logo that you can look for on supplement products called USP verified, and that's the United States Pharmacopoeia, or USP. And they actually have a program where they subject companies and their products to very high standards for things like purity and potency. It's a voluntary program that companies can enter, and if, you know, they meet the USP's high standards for purity and potency and, you know, the other standards they set, then they can put a USP logo on their labels. There's another program called NSF, and that's another independent group that tests and reviews dietary supplements. So you can go to the website of USP or NSF, and they have a database that'll tell you which supplements meet their standards. You can go to consumerlab.com. That is the website of an independent laboratory that tests dietary supplements to see if they contain the actual ingredients and doses listed on their labels. They also check whether they have contaminants as well. So if you're taking a supplement and, you know, you take it daily, you adhere to that regimen, you might want to go to Consumer Lab and see, okay, you know, have they tested these cleanse products? Have they tested multivitamins? Have they tested vitamin D? And which products, you know, get their sort of approval?
That is incredibly helpful guidance. Anahad, thank you so much for explaining all this.
Thank you for having me.
Anahad O'Connor is a health columnist who writes about food and nutrition for the Washington Post's Well+Being desk. He spoke with my co-host, Martine Powers. Here's one other story that I'm watching today. Today, the Supreme Court preserved access to mifepristone, a medication that's used in more than 60% of U.S. abortions. This was a unanimous ruling and the first decision the court has made on abortion since it overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. The court ruled that the anti-abortion doctors who brought the case didn't have the legal standing to sue the Food and Drug Administration over its approval of mifepristone. This is a big season for the Supreme Court. We're soon expecting major decisions on gun rights, homelessness, and whether former President Donald Trump is immune from prosecution on charges of trying to subvert the 2020 election. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. If you're looking for the latest updates on the big news of the day, you should check out our morning news briefing. It's called The 7, and we bring you the 7 stories you need to know about every weekday morning by 7 a.m. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's show was produced by Alana Gordon. It was mixed by Sean Carter and edited by Lucy Perkins. I'm Elahe Izadi. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories from The Washington Post.